Next point about bookkeeping is what can you do with it beyond? So like bookkeeping and beyond. And the notion is that you may be struggling with business plans. Some of the business plan software that's out there downloads into QuickBooks. So let's say you're pre-money. How many of you are a brand new business? Raise your hands. Great. So we're pre-money. We gotta start somewhere. So one tool that I kind of like, it's published by Palo Alto, P-A-L-O-A-L-T-O, I believe, Palo Alto, and it's called the Business Plan Software. You find it in Barnes & Noble or online. What's cool about that is it asks you questions about your business. You answer the questions, you plug it in, and it makes just about the prettiest business plan you're ever going to see, with graphs and everything. Whoa, it's 70 pages. All you do is answer questions. Very pretty, very nice. And pretty matters. Pretty matters to businesses, pretty matters to bankers, and pretty matters to you because you got to feel good about your plan. It's got to make sense. So at the end, it'll show you, does it look like you're going to be profitable by answering all those questions? But it's going to spit out a projected version of what I just talked about, a balance sheet, a PL, and a general ledger. And what's really cool about this software is it will ask you, do you plan on using QuickBooks? And if you say yes, right at the beginning, it will allow you to grow with it over time. So a year later, God willing, you're making money, it just downloads that business plan. And because it knows that the business plan is based on assumptions, till you pay, you don't know that all your expenses are going to be what you assume that they would be. Okay? Because it knows that you're working on assumptions, it will do a dual report, where it'll say, this is what you thought would happen, this is what happened. And I gotta tell you, when you build a business that outperforms your assumptions, bankers love you forever. So, in your business plans, don't promise the world and deliver the moon and the stars. Shoot for the sky, but be as accurate as you can. And if you outperform, you get a big pat on the back, and that's called money from banks, angels, and others. So that's the story. We're going to kind of go through this PowerPoint just a little bit. So, you know, Adrian, you might want to sit over there so you can see the screen.
I also just want to say, basically, if you don't understand everything he was saying, is you don't have to get nervous about it. Because with the right version of QuickBooks, you can put in your checks and you can set up your chart of accounts right, or you can actually purchase a version of QuickBooks for your industry. And if you put your checks in right and you put your deposits in right, QuickBooks will produce all of the reports he's discussed. There are also different options in QuickBooks, and Enterprise Solutions said it starts at $3,000. Well, there's lower versions for small businesses that start at $300, and there's also options you don't even need to buy the software. You can use QuickBooks online, and then you don't have to worry about the software.
She's talking about $100.
Right,
that's
exactly. $99 up to $3,000. So I don't want you to get scared away that this is too large a version for your needs. As long as the chart of accounts is set up properly and all of the QuickBooks comes with their own chart of accounts. You can modify them, you can add to them, you can delete accounts you don't need. You can also purchase versions for your industry. So there's a version for manufacturing, for not-for-profit, for retail, for consulting businesses, where it bills. If you buy consulting, it'll accumulate your time in billing, and then it'll produce invoices for you. So you don't necessarily have to understand the end result. You just need to have the right version up front, and then QuickBooks will do most of the work for you.
Well, you know, Adrian, what's on that screen there?
Well, here is, let's see, this is the entering of vendor information. So what you have to do, there's a little bit of setup up front, and you have to define each one of your vendors. So you can put in Staples, and you can tell them that every time you pay Staples, this was an office supply expense. So you would set up your vendor as a new vendor, and you define the name of the vendor, the address of wherever the check goes, and if you use it the right way, the check will print out with the address on it. You won't even have to address the check.
That's forever. That vendor's in there, and it's forever.
Right, exactly.
Even 5 years from now, you go back, say, what did I pay that guy? It's very
And if you
functional
get
tool.
it changed that it says Staples checks now goes to this P.O. box versus that P.O. box, your history remains, everything stays the same, you can just edit the vendor and
So
you
while all
just
that
change the
reporting
address.
and all that fancy stuff sounds fancy, and it is, you did nothing more than you're doing when you're writing a check.
And
You're
you
writing the
probably,
name, the information, and the amount, but it's preserving that for the future and building reports from it.
and if you have your vendor set up, you can type S and Staples will come up. And if there's two S vendors and you type ST, then that'll come up. So you really don't even have to do a lot of data entry once you're set up.
We go to the next one. So that's an invoice, which is the same thing. Every check should have an invoice against it. You want to tell them a little bit about that?
This would be what you were billing your clients, and this is the most, this is customizable, so you can change the columns on there. And QuickBooks can track classes, so let's say you have office supplies, but you want to track the office supplies you bought for this client versus that client. And you can track it through classes. There's a variety of different ways you can track things in there. But you would predefine the items that you're billing for, so if you're selling retail, you can put all of your products in there. The description is predefined, so once you go in and you define your items, all you have to do is type the first letter or the first two letters of your item, the description will come out. You can predetermine the amount, or you can put your amount in separately each time. And then you tell it again when you define item, whether it's taxable or non-taxable. QuickBooks tracks all of that. It can even do your sales tax returns.
Right, again, you'll go backwards. What did I pay in did I charge my client sales tax? Did I charge them enough? These become critical for the future. I want to go a little bit faster because we're only 10 minutes and I want to take questions. This is
where you would put a payment in. So you build the client, and this is how you put in that they paid that particular invoice.
And this is what we started to talk about. Profit and loss with revenue and then this is a balance sheet with assets and other things. And we're going to talk about these things when we take your questions. But I'm anxious to hear your questions. What is this?
This is a source ledger that tells you all of your general ledger accounts, your balances, this pretty much tells you a snapshot of the business right now, how much is due in, how much is due out. You're doing is your receivables.
And again, they're not telling me this. This is going to be generated just from doing the same activity you folks do when you write a check. You're doing nothing more than that. But you're going to learn how to print reports and go through them. What is this? Just more of that,
this
right?
Is more of that.
But think about how important it is. It's got your inventory, it's got your history of what other liabilities you owe or may owe in the future as well. And this?
This is the general ledger report. This tells you all of the accounts and all of the balances in the account, what makes them up. This is detailed.
And this is going to come right out from what they put in those checks.
Absolutely. These are all menu options in QuickBooks. If you have reports and you have a drop-down menu and it'll define reports, or you can define your own. This is drilled down. If you see a general ledger and it says you owe out $2,000, you can drill down and it'll tell you who you owe it to and what you owe.
You know, people, my first bookkeeper, when I was 12, said, it's just what you put in, what you put out. And I said, well, that's what I was doing. I was writing that down. When we got to a certain amount of zeros, my mom said, oh, I'm quitting my job because I thought you were kidding in my little DJ business at the time. And then Mom learned on Quick In, which was this first type of program, which was just, I mean, it was nothing more than typing checks. You can use only 2 fingers, no fancy typing. Typing the checks and the numbers, and then from there we grew. And that's all, it's low-hanging fruit. If you go to an account and they tell you to buy something called Peachtree or all these products, I'm going to get sued eventually on these videos. But if they tell you to spend $10,000, $15,000 on custom bookkeeping, throw the man out of the room or get up and leave. Okay? You've got economic challenges. This should be fun and easy. Nothing more than that.